Truthear's tagline, where sound meets truth, is definitely something they strive towards, and one of their latest releases is aiming to show the world just that. For $150 bring the Nova, another entrant in the $150 price point that aims to topple the multi-$100 IEM segment. So will the Nova burn bright and fade away, or go supernova and be seared into history? If you're new to the channel and find this content interesting, do me a big favor and click the subscribe button down below. And if you are already subscribed, you are a lovely person. So today we will take a look at the Truthear's Nova, currently priced at $149.99 but can vary slightly depending on the region. It follows the Truthear's DNA of having incredible performance for a much lower price than similar offerings. And the Nova sits at a considerable tier above the Zero and Zero Red that got raving reviews. So will this garner the same kind of attention? Let's find out! To begin, the box is a sleeved cardboard box that comes with a new Truthear's waifu Shiroi. And the entire package is a relatively modest sized. Inside the box there's a pull tab with a cover that hides the rest of the accessories, IEM and ear tips in a rather neatly arranged manner. Truthear's has helpfully provided 3 pairs of silicone ear tips, small, medium and large, 2 pairs of double flange ear tips both having different length, and 1 pair of foam ear tips. In the accessory box there is a deviation from the usual carrying case, where instead of a hard shell or zippered box, it's got a zippered pouch that is chic and stylish. The provided cable is also slightly different from before, featuring a fabric sleeve cable that is slightly longer than the usual offerings. At 1.45 meters long, it's rather long, and that's what she said. It's a 4-core blue and black braided cable and is extremely soft and pliable, albeit being slightly microphoning. So next, let's talk about the build quality. The build quality of the Nova is very similar to the Zero, following a black resin shell with a stylized faceplate featuring a blue wavy pattern design with some sort of sparkles in them. The shell itself is emblazoned with the Truthear's brand, with the left and right markings for respective sides, and a flush 0.78mm 2-pin connector as well. Some mistake this for the Truthear Zero, as it does look rather similar apart from the fabric cable. Overall build quality is very decent, but I'm not going to risk sitting on it as I don't want shards of resin in my ass. The cable itself has an aluminum 3.5mm plug and a aluminum Y splitter, along with a chin stop that isn't tight on the cable itself. It is pliable and soft and does not hold any memory at all, so it won't be finicky to deal with, but is a bit more microphonic and can be annoying to some. There are also some memory ear guides, albeit simple ones. They are quite easy to adjust. Being $150 IEM, it doesn't come in any sort of balance termination, so just the venerable 3.5mm is used. This just means that you get to play with cables if you want to go balance. Comfort. The Nova shell is slightly larger than the Truthear Zero shell, although extremely similar in shape and sizing. It can be on the larger side, so those with smaller ears might find it slightly uncomfortable, but for me it fits just nice. The tip sits very nicely as well when worn right. I can wear this easily with no discomfort. The memory guides are not particularly intrusive and aid with comfort too. The cable itself is a bit longer, that can be both a good and a bad thing for people, as the length tends to just get snagged up on furniture, your environment, whatever surroundings, but it also allows your audio source to be further away. Next, talking about sound. The Nova follows a pretty standard hybrid configuration with 1 dynamic driver plus 4 balanced armature. Basically inside it is a 10mm dynamic driver with 2 dual balanced armatures. To cut to the chase, the Nova features what is basically a Harman tuning, which is kind of popular these days. As usual, I've included a graph for you guys who need such visualizations. Just note that a graph is really more of a tool for QC and really says jack shit about the overall technicalities and can just hint at a bit of the overall tone. What this means is that the Nova has quite full bass that is well balanced with the rest of the frequency range. I found that the bass tight and punchy with very good control, but wish that it was just a tad more dynamic. However, it does layer nicely with the rest of the frequency range and does not really cut into the lower mids. As such, I never really noticed any mid-bass bloats, but it does have some really good resonance coming from the dynamic driver, which is quite unlike bass that is done via balanced armatures. Overall, it's a very nice, comfortable listen. The mids are really fantastic for the price. It produces vocals beautifully and instruments sound cohesive and not unnatural. It's got that slight upper mid-range focus and would work beautifully with the ACG genre of music. The mid-range timbre is also very nice and natural without too fast of a decay or with it feeling too sluggish. As for the upper frequencies, treble extends well and isn't bright enough to cause fatigue when listening. It's actually really smooth and presents itself very well. No sudden peaks and certainly very comfortable to listen to for longer hours. The soundstage isn't the widest I've heard. In fact, it is rather on the intimate side, but it doesn't feel claustrophobic. There is a very good amount of layering and imaging, as individual sources of sound can be picked apart and distinguished really easily, and as such it does depth and positioning quite well. It is quintessentially a Harman tuning done tastefully, no real deviations from it, and some people tout it as a very versatile tuning, but some others might shun it for being a little bit boring. It really all boils down to personal preference really, and all things considered, it is a fantastic value buy from Truthear's once again. Of course, all that said is quite meaningless if there isn't some comparison. So the first IEM I'm going to compare would be Truthear's very own Hexa. So the previous similarly priced darling in the Truthear's lineup would be the Hexa, and boy, these were the favorites a few months back. The Hexa by comparison has a flatter response and does not have an elevated upper mids at about 3K, which makes it a bit duller to listen to. I applaud Truthear's for trying something new and making an easy to listen IEM, albeit lacking in a bit of upper mid-range excitement. Personally, I prefer the Nova by comparison, as it is just more natural to me, especially with the slight boost in the upper mids, making it have better perceived clarity. The Nova just sounds more lively. Next up, versus the Simgot EA1000 Fermat. So the Simgot is the standout in the second half of 2023. It uses a single dynamic driver plus a passive radiator that allows for a very cohesive sound with tasteful resonance. It is, however, a little bit pricier than the Nova, and it shows with better levels of details, technicalities, and overall cohesiveness. But the Nova puts up a very good fight with how it renders with a 4 balance armature plus single DD, which has a traditional hybrid tonal color. Which sort of tone is really up to your preference. And lastly, versus the Tanchjim Kara. So I guess you guys know that I haven't talked about the Kara in quite a while, so I guess I'll just talk about it when comparing it to the Nova. The Kara is a warm and rather round sounding IM. That is to say that it has a rather polite treble with nice thick mids and bass. Technically, the Nova is quite a hit when it comes to technicalities, with better details and positioning. Also, there will be more genres that suit the Nova over the Kara. So if that's it, I hope you liked the review of the Truthear's Nova, and honestly it's one of the IEMs that is in my rotation very often together with the Simgot EA1000. Yeah, it's a very lovely IEM that really suits many genres. Well, it can suit pop very well as well. So it's a very easy IEM to daily drive. I think it will be an easy recommendation for anyone. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Superchunk Super Audio Show. I managed to squeeze this episode up before I go to Taipei, and if there are friends in Taipei who sees me, please just say hi. Thank you guys so much for watching. With that said, I hope to see you guys soon.